there's just an arrogance about this bunch that I don't trust. Washington is a trash can.
Nel bizzarro episodio precedente abbiamo ascoltato 4 testimoni che sostenevano a fine degli anni 90 che Eisenhower fosse salito a bordo di un UFO nel febbraio del 1955. Questo episodio estivo tra il serio e il faceto lo dedichiamo interamente a Tim Burchett. Sapete, ci piace vederlo un po' come un eroe. Non conoscete Tim Burchett? È un membro del congresso, in pratica un parlamentare. Lo abbiamo intravisto nell'episodio numero 10, quando aveva accompagnato Ryan Graves in aula a testimoniare. Nato e cresciuto nel Tennessee, fa parte di quella dozzina di parlamentari che si stanno battendo per far desecretare i documenti del Pentagono riguardo agli UFO. Abbiamo raccolto una decina di clip di questo deputato che coprono quasi 2 anni di disclosure, dall'inizio fino a pochi giorni fa. Lo abbiamo fatto sia per celebrarlo che per riassumere un po' la situazione al Pentagono. Infatti in questi 2 anni abbiamo già avuto 2 udienze pubbliche, che non vi abbiamo mai riportato perché non dicevano nulla di particolare. Erano veramente mediocri. Nelle 2 ultime clip vedremo che sembra sia riuscito ad ottenere una terza udienza in Parlamento, a porte aperte, quindi pubblica, con alcuni whistleblower che si dovrebbe tenere a fine luglio. Ma questa volta in aula ci sarà lui e probabilmente guiderà l'evento. Quindi entro fine luglio aspettiamoci un'udienza pubblica al congresso e altre dichiarazioni scottanti.
Congressman, I know right now with President Biden, when he's going to speak to Putin, that he's going to ask him about the UFO things and stuff like that.
I think that's ridiculous. If the Russians had UFO technology, I mean, they would own us right now. They used to say that. I've heard people talk about how the Nazis had it in the Second World War. If they did, they would have won. That is ridiculous. It has to be something that's out of our galaxy. It just has to be if it in fact is real.
And Congressman, you have always been a straight shooter. It's been like I know when it's been bipartisan, but the one thing I've noticed is doesn't matter which president it is, nobody ever talks about the...
They always say they're going to do something about it, and then they get in office. And honestly, I thought Trump was going to do something. He was going to release the files. But, you know, they release these files, are redacted. It's just a big blob of whiteout. And clearly something's going on that we can't handle. I mean, UFOs were in the Bible. Read Ezekiel. It talks about the wheel flying around. So, I mean, they've been around since we've been around, and somebody needs to come up with some answers.
So even when something's supposed to be released coming up in a few weeks or months, what do you think is going to be in that?
I don't believe it. I think Roswell was covered up. I think, you know, more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress for good reason, because of the jackleg stuff we do like that. We talk about we're going to release it, and then we never do, or we release something that's so redacted that it's just ridiculous. The Air Force had a release on Roswell, which was the big deal, I think, from '48, and the big cover up there. And the guy that did it was a smart aleck, and he kind of smirked the whole time, and nobody took it serious. They ought to take it serious. The American public wants to know, and frankly, we deserve to know.
I think at some point it's gonna happen, man.
I think so too. I think they're going to release that. I think somebody's going to release stuff. The Kennedy assassination files are going to do it all, but we haven't had a president with enough guts to do it just yet.
Congressman, I know they just had some dealings with the about the UFOs situation where I think Pentagon is going to be taking over.
Yeah.
I'm confused with it, man. Help me here.
You're not the only one. The Pentagon, of course, is valiantly decided they're going to take over all the research on the UFO phenomena, but it's totally bogus. I mean, they're just going to require more money from us, and they're going to keep it quiet. I don't trust the Pentagon. I never have. They are secrets upon secrets, and that's how they operate. And we're foolish if we give them any more money to do this kind of thing. It needs to be independent. There needs to be congressional oversight, and the public needs to see it.
Right.
It doesn't need to be any double secret meetings.
Right. I thought we was finally getting to a point where the public was going to
I think they yanked the rug out. They don't think we're prepared. They pulled the rug out from under us. I think the military-industrial complex and the rest of those clowns, they fully know what they're doing, and they're going to keep it secret from us.
Just one last thing. Why is it like they don't want what is it they don't want the public to know?
That's a good question. I've got a theory about that. I think it's about control. They think once that they lose control of the issue, that could you imagine if this world was focused on one issue, looking at something like that, we could all come together on something? I think that would just disrupt the whole military-industrial complex, the religious-industrial complex, on down the line. It would just disrupt that whole chain. And they don't want it. They don't want it. They want control. They want secrets. They want it compartmentalized. I mean, they won't even release it, the Kennedy files. And who the heck's alive after that? It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous.
It's going to come out soon, man. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you.
Just 20% of us think Congress is doing a good job, and today's hearings on UFOs is unlikely to change that feeling. For the first time in 50 years, Congress attempted to get answers on whether or not we are alone in the world.
And is this one of the phenomena that we can't explain?
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is. When I say we can't explain, I mean exactly as you described there, that there is a lot of information, like the video that we showed, in which there's simply too little data to create a reasonable explanation. When I say unexplained, I mean everything from too little data to the data that we have doesn't point us towards an explanation.
Actually, there's a lot of data. There are dozens of videos, radar tracks, witness accounts from U.S. military pilots. Today, the Pentagon authenticated 11 additional videos that show unidentified flying objects, or in the Pentagon's words, aerial phenomenon. But they provided no answers, as you heard, as to what they are. That doesn't sit well with Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee, who's been leading the fight to declassify the Pentagon's UFO files. Congressman, we get any closer to answers today?
Absolutely not. I think the cover-up continued. The video they showed was 30 seconds long, and they couldn't even slow it down to show the one frame that was supposed to show that evidence. Go back to the Tic Tac video where the Navy pilots are actually describing what's going on. That's the person we should have had. We had a Navy pilot there, and he wasn't even testifying. So I think that I think it continues to be a cover-up. I don't have the answers, but I'll tell you, they're not providing them.
So you obviously are purview to a lot of other information that we're not, and we've been in classified briefings. Three obvious explanations for the videos we see. One, it's American technology that's top secret. Two, it's Russian or Chinese technology. Three, it's people from outer space who've got way better technology than we do. There's only one way to sleep well at night, which is that it's U.S. technology. Should, after today's hearing, the American people sleep well?
No, I think if there's something out there that was going to do something, it would have happened a long time ago. I don't think it's Chinese or the Russians. I mean, honestly, if it was Russia, Putin would have landed one on the White House lawn and gotten out bare-chested and wrestled the president on a unicorn or something. In China, they would overtake us all. And if we had it, we would knock everything down out of the air. So that really leaves only one of two options. It's either something that we've recovered and we're reverse engineering, or it is actually something coming from out of this world. Probably they've run out of whiteout to cover up all the good part.
Right.
I don't have any faith in those reports. I've said that all along, that it's just a cover up. The whole thing's been a cover up, and I don't think they're going to release anything of any substance. I've had my hopes up early on, and then I have no faith in it whatsoever. And the only reason we're discussing this, me and you, today, is because of the Tic Tac videos, the leaked videos of the cameras, the wing cameras the Navy pilots had, and that is the only reason this is out in the public purview right now.
Well, that is true, and because people like you are also staying on this and being willing to fight for answers. Congressman, we appreciate it, and we admire being able to push through with all of the noise behind you. Thank you, sir.
That's all right, and keep up with it. We need transparency in government, and we don't have that. Especially this issue shows that completely. Last summer's UFO report, Mr. Speaker, from the Director of National Intelligence was bogus. The report raised more questions than answers about unidentified objects in the skies. It stunk of a government cover-up, Mr. Speaker. Now the Pentagon is starting a new office to collect information on these unidentified objects. The office is called the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group. I don't know where they came up with that name. I'm sure they paid somebody a lot of money to come up with that. I do not trust this new office, Mr. Speaker. I don't think it'll be transparent with lawmakers or the public about its findings. This is a national security issue. Congress needs to know what is going on so we can respond accordingly. Today, I'm requesting the leaders of this new office bring members of Congress on their bring them in on their UFO findings. This is a matter of great public interest and has been for a very long time to a lot of Americans. Our government should not hide the truth from us for another second. If this new office is to be held accountable, our country will get more reports like the one that came out last summer, or worse, they will be silent and hope we all just forget about the phenomena. We do not need to fear these airborne and unidentified objects. They would have shown themselves to be dangerous a long time ago by now if they were a threat. Our citizens and country can handle the truth, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the remainder of my time.
National security. In other words, there's a lot more videos like these, but clearer, better, more informative to what those Navy pilots and sailors were seeing, but we are not going to see the video. It's out there, the video, just like the UFOs. Joining us now, Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman, good to see you. You kind of called this, right, that they know a lot more than what they let on during those hearings?
Yeah, we got hosed during those hearings after the hearings were over. That's what I told the press. You know, the most technologically advanced nation in the world, and they show this weak video that, and they couldn't even stop a 23-second video to show us 2 or 3 frames. The whole thing is bogus. They're just going to brush it over, and then they're going to say, oh, we're going to, it's national secrets, national defense. Look, they're not going to release the Kennedy files even, you know, it's supposed to be 50 years. They don't trust us. It's all about power and control. And right now they've got it. And Congress, frankly, is gutless. That's why people like me will probably never be on the Intelligence Committee, because I'm not going to put
gutless or ineffective, I don't know. You could probably get above about 80% of Americans agreeing with that. Navy's statement on releasing the new UFO videos: it will harm national security as it may provide adversaries valuable information regarding Department of Defense Navy operations, vulnerabilities, and or capabilities. No portions of the video can be segregated for release. So is there a way that they're just telegraphing us, hey, guess what, all this stuff is well, maybe our own technology, and we've all just been running around chasing our tails on this?
We're probably reverse engineering some of it because the enormous amounts of it that are in military installations or in reserved area. But you got to ask yourself.
Well, so when you say reverse engineering, you mean that you think that there's stuff that has come from outer space, another planet, and then the Navy and others are working on it?
Yeah, do you believe Roswell was a weather balloon? And it was reported by...
I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the expert.
Well, I'm not the expert, but I'm telling you, they're covering it up, and it's the American taxpayers should demand this from them. And it's so compartmentalized. A lot of the people that are probably working on it don't even know they're working on it, similar to the atomic bomb out here at Oak Ridge during the Second World War. But you talk to experts, I've talked to Navy pilots, they all tell me the same thing. There's something that we do not control in our own airspace. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to admit to the world that we aren't as technologically advanced as some beings from light years away? Well, of course we're not. But the point is, too, if they wanted us dead, we would be dead.
Right. Well, that's a good point. You say, though, that they're reverse engineering it and working on it a little bit like the atomic bomb and the like. People thought about the same thing with the U-2 spy plane, right? Back in the 60s and 70s, people called in and said that was a UFO. They'd never seen anything like it, never seen anything that flew so high. It'd show up on civilian radars and then disappear. Kind of the same deal, and it was our technology.
No, nowhere near the same deal. It was things that defy. I mean, it defies all laws of physics. There is no friction. There is no exhaust trail. It is not slowed down when it goes in water, when it goes in air. It is not slowed down. It can do a 90-degree angle, which would turn you or me into literally a ketchup package. And it is definitely out of this world. And it's something that I don't think we can control yet if we have parts of it in our, but I just believe it. I mean,
how are we going to get the truth? If the Navy won't release the videos, Congress won't do anything, you're not going to get on the Intel committee. How are we going to get the truth?
If you think Congress is going to get some guts, I say, what they'll do. Here's what they do. They always do this. When they don't want you to comment on it, they say, oh, let's have a classified briefing. And then you rush in there, and then they tell you, and then you are restricted not to discuss that. Even if it's something you already knew before, you can't discuss it. It's a trap with these so-called classified briefings. Generally, they're a bunch of garbage anyway, showing a bunch of gutless politicians hiding behind a desk somewhere that nobody can touch. And that's exactly what's going on with this. But I do believe that some of our industry, there's probably 4 or 5 major corporations that do have some of this technology, and they're using it to reverse engineer, but in cooperation with our government, because there's just too much out there, and there's too many sightings. It's historically prevalent. It's on hieroglyphics. It's in paintings from the Dark Ages. I'm a Christian. I read my Bible. Ezekiel saw the wheel. Read the first chapter of Ezekiel. Grant, they're talking about the most technologically advanced thing at that time that they're comparing it to, and that is a wheel. So you have to kind of extrapolate that, and the fact that it was King James translation from old writings. But I think enough people out there believe it, and I get
look, we put the polls up. 65% believe in alien life. 87 believe USOs are not a security risk. Obviously, the Navy sees it differently. Hey, it's good to see you, Congressman, as always. Unfortunately, we got to run. I could talk to you all day about this.
Thanks, brother. If you go on my website, I've got a T-shirt that says more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress, and it's my biggest. Thanks, Leland.
True words, sir. It's good to see you. Thank you.
And at the forefront of these calls for transparency is one congressman who alleges that a massive UFO cover-up is happening at the highest levels of government. Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett is here with us tonight. Congressman, welcome. Great to see you, as always. So this latest report acknowledges over 500 unidentified aerial phenomena, also claiming that the majority of new sightings come from American military personnel like our Navy and our Air Force. What do you make of this report?
I think it's a complete cover-up. If you go to the second Roswell incident that you alluded to, they first came out and said a saucer has been recovered. The military comes out, the press comes out. The next day say, oh no, it's a balloon. It's a hot air balloon. This has been a cover up from day one. It really boils down to arrogance and greed, the greed and arrogance of our military industrial complex and people in Washington. I wouldn't trust them if they told me the sun was coming up tomorrow, dadgummit. They don't. The video that you're seeing right now, the famous Tic Tac video, is the one that people ought to be looking at. There's our best pilots in the world are the ones that you hear on the tape if you hear the audio to that, and they're describing something that we do not control. If it was a human being in there, they would literally turn into a ketchup package. I mean, our bodies are not designed to withstand the G-forces. We do not have the technology. There is not even a vapor trail following that. So this is something out of this world. This is a complete cover-up, and it has been from the beginning of this. And for whatever reason, it boils down to arrogance and greed. Currently, I believe a lot of it's out of our own hands, out of the government's hands, and some of the big international corporations have the material that is being described in this, and the people at the Pentagon are wringing their hands right now because this was leaked, this video, and that's the only reason we're talking about it, because this video the people are watching right now was leaked, and they claimed the military said it didn't exist. Washington said it didn't exist. It was a hoax. And lo and behold, guess what? They say now it exists. Now we're supposed to believe
now
them.
It exists.
Yeah, they got their hands caught in the cookie jar is what happened, ma'am. And the American public ought to be alarmed about that. We should talk to your Congress people. Say, hey, come forward with this stuff. We can handle it. This is ridiculous. This is the arrogance of power, and it needs to end today.
Well, I think we know, even in just the past week with what we've been watching with Document Gate, that transparency is certainly lacking with our federal government right now. Yeah. What are you hearing from your colleagues on this topic? Obviously, you in the House GOP, you have a lot you're investigating right now, but what are you hearing as far as their concerns with these sightings?
Well, I think the one concern we're having is there is actual military craft. I mean, there are craft in our military airspace that we do not control. And to me, that should be a very compelling reason to find out what the heck is going on, and the government needs to come forward and tell us what they know. And currently, they're not very forthcoming, ma'am. The so-called hearing they had in front of the Intelligence Committee that was the public we were allowed to see, it was a joke. The two people they put in charge of it, I'm sure they're patriotic, great Americans, but ma'am, they had no clue about anything. I was told I was going to be able to ask a question right up to the point I was getting ready to ask my question. I received a text and said, in fact, no, you will not be able to. One of the pilots who is on one of the videos was in the audience. They wouldn't let him come in, but he came in anyway. He had press credentials. Somebody gave him some press credentials, and he wasn't allowed to testify. So this is a cover-up. It needs to come to an end, and the arrogance needs to stop.
It sure does, Congressman. I don't have a lot of time left, but before we go, I want to ask you, there's now a spotlight on that 1945 New Mexico UFO incident. It's gone relatively under the radar in comparison to Roswell in 1947. Do you believe that this new amendment in the defense spending bill will force any new information that might clarify what happened that day?
Absolutely. Whistleblowers are coming forth, but the problem is when they come forward, is it in a classified briefing? And when Congress people like myself are briefed in a classified setting, it means they cannot comment on it. By law, they can be arrested for that. So I think the cover-up will continue. They're going to say they're moving ahead, but don't trust the government, ma'am. It's just, I mean, look at the Kennedy assassinations. They won't even let loose. When they do, they let loose a piece of paper. It looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. Who are they trying to protect? This is ridiculous, ma'am. This is classic Washington arrogance, and it needs to stop today. You need to demand from our leadership that it stops.
Well, we are doing that, and we're certainly going to have you back here to give us more information as you obtain it. Congressman Tim Burchett with a great backdrop there, by the way. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us tonight.
Those are some guns my dad brought back. He
That's right.
liberated in the Pacific.
Amazing.
Thank you, ma'am.
God bless
Yes,
him.
ma'am.
Love that.
Yes, ma'am. He was
All
great.
right, we'll see you soon, sir. Thank you.
You have classified briefings, and I know you can't tell us what happens in those briefings, but I mean, is there just like a ton of information that we don't know, that you know?
There's quite a bit. I've been in meetings and I guess the CIA or whoever, the alphabet agencies in there, and they're getting nervous when the pilots start talking and telling us things, and they tried to sandbag us down in Florida on a meeting. They told us we were going to have a meeting. They gave us all this other top secret stuff, which is pretty incredible, but had nothing to do with the UFOs. And then we had to call their bluff. We had to call back to Washington, and we had to get the higher ups to release the pilots to speak to us, which is why we flew to Florida in the first place. So there's, I guess there's pride in ownership, whatever. There's just an arrogance about this bunch that I don't trust. Washington is a trash can.
Can you tell us what the status of House hearings are and what you would hope to accomplish in that?
Yeah, we're hoping to have them around the end of July. Of course, you have to realize that that the committee, the chairman will set the date, of course, and I'm leery of exposing too many of the people that we'd like to have in, just because in the past, they get demonized in the press, and they'll pull their third grade teacher out and they'll say, oh, he cheated in math, or something. And New York Times, one of the New York, maybe not the Times, but maybe the New York papers will go after him. And but I just want to get to the truth. I want to get to the people. I'm not so much worried. Everybody's like, you need all these bureaucrats in there. I don't want the bureaucrats in there. They're the ones who've been lying to us. I want people who have firsthand knowledge that can talk about some of the incidents that have happened, and some of the people that have some credibility within the community as well.